All right, let's listen in to what Imran Khan is presently saying.
कि जी परेशान थे कि ये क्या हो रहा है, सारी कौम के सामने ये एक गद्दारी हो रही थी, गद्दार बैठे हुए थे और साजिश हो रही थी। और मैं उनको पैगाम देना चाहता हूँ, घबराना नहीं, अल्लाह इस कौम के ऊपर देख रहा है। 27 रमज़ान को ये पाकिस्तान वजूद में आया था। ये इस तरह की साजिश इंशाल्लाह ये कौम कामयाब नहीं होने देगी। तो जो स्पीकर ने आज जो अपनी अथॉरिटी, अपनी जो पावर, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पावर यूज़ करके जो फैसला किया है, अब इसके बाद मैंने अभी से प्रेसिडेंट साहब को वो भेज दिया है, एडवाइस भेज दी है कि असेंबलियां डिसॉल्व करें। एक डेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी में हम डेमोक्रेट्स अवाम के पास जाएं, अवाम से इलेक्शंस हों, अवाम फैसला करे कि वो किसको चाहती है। कोई बाहर से साजिश और इस तरह के लोग, करप्ट लोग, पैसे की बोरियों से लोगों को खरीद के इस मुल्क की तकदीर का फैसला ना करें। वो लोग जो सारे अचकन सलवा के बैठे हुए हैं और वो करोड़ों रुपया इन्होंने खर्च किया लोगों को खरीदने के लिए, ये सारा पैसा इंशाल्लाह ज़ाया होगा। और जिन लोगों ने ये पैसा लिया है, मैं आप सबको कहता हूं कि कोई अभी भी कोई स्वाब कमा लें, कि कोई पनाह गाह पे लगा दें, कोई यतीम खाना खोल दें, कोई गरीबों के लिए मैं पैसा डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करें। और मैं अपनी कौम को आज कहता हूं कि आप इलेक्शंस की तैयारी करें और आपने फैसला करना है। किसी बाहर की कुव्वत, किसी करप्ट लोगों ने फैसला नहीं करना कि इस मुल्क का मुस्तकबिल क्या होगा। आपने फैसला करना है इस मुल्क का। और इंशाअल्लाह हम प्रेसिडेंट साहब को जब एडवाइस चला जाएगा, असेंबलीज डिसॉल्व हो जाएंगी और फिर आगे जो भी प्रोसीजर है अगले इलेक्शन का, केयर टेकर गवर्नमेंट का, वो अब शुरू हो जाएगा। मैं अपनी कौम को मुबारक देता हूँ और मैं अल्लाह का शुक्र अदा करता हूँ कि इतनी बड़ी साजिश जो मुल्क से की जा रही थी, एक इलेक्टेड 22 करोड़ की कौम जिसकी इलेक्टेड हुकूमत को गिराने की कोशिश की गई है, इस साजिश से वो आज फेल हो गई है। पाकिस्तान पाइंदाबाद।
The message by the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan in his address after that very controversial little session that took place a little while back, in which the Deputy Speaker Qasim Khan Suri dismissed the no trust against the Prime Minister and termed it as against Article 5 of the Constitution. This is the big development that the Prime Minister Imran Khan has now put forth, that he, on the basis of what's been happening so far, has now sent a request to the President to dissolve the Assembly, and there will be snap elections in Pakistan, which the incumbent Prime Minister Imran Khan has now called. So the Pakistani Prime Minister sent an advice to the President of Pakistan to dissolve the National Assembly. This, of course, is the big breaking development that is taking place, and he has now asked his party members and indeed his countrymen to prepare for fresh elections that will be called. And Imran Khan also said that this is quite clearly a conspiracy that was being waged against his government. He said the reason why the Deputy Speaker has taken the steps that he has taken is because the session that was presently underway was simply unconstitutional. The Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly in Pakistan dismissed the no trust motion. No voting took place. This was something contrary to the expectations that the people had. And this, of course, is the big development that we are tracking at this point of time on WION. It's nothing short of perhaps the most unexpected. This is the rabbit that the Pakistani Prime Minister had been promising about, that he would be pulling out from his hat. And for more on this, we're joined in by my colleague Anas Malik, who's joining us on this broadcast. Anas, this is an extraordinary sequence of events where the Prime Minister has said that he will now advise the President to dissolve the Assembly and fresh elections will be held. Anas, if you can hear me, this of course is a most extraordinary development that has happened in the politics in Pakistan, where just in the last half an hour we witnessed the Deputy Speaker dismissed the no-trust motion. We also heard the Prime Minister Imran Khan address the nation where he said that he'll now be advising the President of Pakistan to dismiss the Assembly.
Well, yes, a major development, Saleh, coming in here in Pakistan. The Pakistani Prime Minister has advised the President to dissolve the assemblies. We were expecting chaos. We spoke about it in the morning, that what happens in case there are disruptions, what happens if there is a no vote. We spoke at around 10 a.m. IST, and that's exactly what happened today. When the floor was opened, it was given to the question answers were there, and the question hour was presided, or the floor was given to the Pakistani Information Minister, Fawad Chaudhry. And he said that this is an unconstitutional assembly, and that this is an unconstitutional session, and that the loyalty should be towards the state by and large. After that, the speaker adjourned the session for an indefinite time, and soon after that, before that, we were on the live, we were speaking, and the Pakistani Prime Minister had summoned the national media, the national broadcaster at his residence, and just after the session was adjourned for an indefinite time period, we saw sloganeering being done. The Pakistani Prime Minister went on air. Imran Khan goes on air, and he has said that he has sent a summary and advice to the Prime Minister, to the President rather, seeking a dissolution of the assemblies. That is the major development right now. For one reason, what happens next? Will the President act on Prime Minister's advice, or will he give the opposition a chance? $1 million question, whether Arif Alvi, the President, goes on to become the Farooq Lagari of the Imran Khan government or not. That is a key question, and that will only be answered in some hours from now. Eric?
Absolutely,
Saleh,
indeed. This of course, is of course the big question in terms of what will happen next, because what has happened so far within the National Assembly in Pakistan and the address by Imran Khan himself, this was something that was totally unexpected. Few people predicted that this particular session that was presently underway in Pakistan would be dubbed unconstitutional on the basis that it was a conspiracy by some foreign powers to dislodge the government which had brought about this no-confidence motion. It is on basis of that the Deputy Speaker in the National Assembly dismissed the no-confidence vote against the Imran Khan government. And then we also later subsequently heard Imran Khan address the nation, where he has said that he's now advised the President to dissolve the Assembly, and he's called for snap elections. Anas, for the way the optics look, in terms of how this will be perceived, is this clearly a case where the Imran Khan government has perhaps not played by the rules? This clearly looks like a straightforward case of using some kind of a clause within the law to manage to hold on to power.
Yeah, but I mean, you're absolutely right on that. But the bigger question here remains is, why did the speaker not come? And government sources here answer me that because the speaker was already facing a no-confidence motion, therefore it was imperative for him to not show up at the session, and rather to go ahead and let the deputy speaker, because the deputy speaker, as we speak, is a relatively non-controversial figure. Therefore, the deputy speaker had been presiding the session. Now, what happens next in some hours from now will be quite decisive in Pakistan. It will go on to further show that how the situation in the country pans out. There's ruckus outside the parliament where I am, very near to where I am. I can still hear the chants and sloganeering by the opposition parties as well. So, by and large, there seems to be uncertainty. What follows next? Whether there is there's a constitutional crisis at hand, whether the establishment intervenes, nobody knows about that. And I think in some hours from now, we'd be having much more clarity on the matter. Eric,
Saleh? This, of course, is a very controversial decision, because not a lot of people, of course, expected something like this to pan out. The legality of what the Deputy Speaker has in fact done, Qasim Khan Suri, whether this is even something that would stand scrutiny in a court of law, if that is something that the opposition would want to pursue. Anas, at this point of time, have you heard anything from the opposition? We know for a fact that they are protesting, they protested. We see the visuals, we also hear what they've been saying. But at this point of time, do they want to take this to the Supreme Court?
Well, they're of course angry. They're taken aback by the discussion, by whatever that has happened inside the parliament. There was a press talk that was being held outside, and as I talk to you, there are still sloganeering that is being done, increased security measures that have been deployed. I haven't gotten a chance to speak to opposition leaders about what has happened just moments back, and the Prime Minister addressing the nation, saying that he has advised the President to dissolve the assemblies. The opposition would take this as their victory, for one reason, that they have managed to oust the Prime Minister or the government by one way or the other. So interesting times in time to come, interesting times and a couple of more uncertain days ahead here in Pakistan.
Absolutely, indeed. This, of course, is going to throw the political situation in Pakistan and make it much more uncertain, because at this point of time, it is difficult to, in fact, predict as to how all of this will, of course, play out. What will the President now do? Will he immediately dissolve the assembly as the Prime Minister has advised him to do, or will he, give opposition a chance? These are questions that are still in the realm of speculation. But at this point of time, as things stand, this was the rabbit that Imran Khan had been talking about, that he would pull out of the hat, and this is precisely what has happened. Not many people would have perhaps even expected this. The Deputy Speaker, of course, turned out today, and he has dismissed the no-confidence motion that had been brought against the government, had dubbed it unconstitutional, because the reason why the no-confidence motion had been brought about was because of a conspiracy that was being hatched by a foreign power to destabilize the government in Pakistan. That is the reasoning that has been given. Whether all of this will stand the scrutiny of the law, whether this is something that will be acceptable to the people in Pakistan, is something that we will get to know over the course of the next few hours and days and weeks. But this is what the scene looks like inside the assembly in Pakistan, where the opposition has, of course, jumped into the well. They are sloganeering. They are demanding that this is simply unacceptable. The Imran Khan government, according to all measures, it appears simply did not have the numbers to defend itself in a no-confidence motion. And that is why this rather extraordinary argument was used that the no-confidence motion was brought about because of a conspiracy hatched by a foreign power, and therefore it had no validity and therefore needed to be dismissed. This is what the Deputy Speaker Qasim Khan Suri had to say as he dismissed the no-trust vote. And just moments after that, we heard Imran Khan give that address to the nation, where he said that this is a great day for him, and he is now advising the President in Pakistan to, in fact, dissolve the assembly and call for fresh elections. Let's listen in again, one more time, to what the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan had to say.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन। मैं आज अपनी सारी कौम को मुबारक देना चाहता हूँ कि नेशनल असम्बली के हमारे स्पीकर ने मुस्तरद किया, रिजेक्ट किया एक वो मूव, रिजीम चेंज की जो कोशिश की गई थी पाकिस्तान के 22 करोड़ अवाम में, एक बाहर से प्लान किया हुआ नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन जिसके पीछे एक फॉरेन एजेंडा था, और जो आज स्पीकर ने उसको जो रिजेक्ट किया है, और ये नो कॉन्फिडेंस को जो रिजेक्ट किया, मैं सारी कौम को आज मुबारक देता हूँ। मुझे कल से इतने लोग पैगाम दे रहे थे कि जी परेशान थे कि ये क्या हो रहा है, सारी कौम के सामने ये एक गद्दारी हो रही थी, गद्दार बैठे हुए थे और साजिश हो रही थी। और मैं उनको पैगाम देना चाहता हूँ, घबराना नहीं, अल्लाह इस कौम के ऊपर देख रहा है। 27 रमज़ान को ये पाकिस्तान वजूद में आया था। ये इस तरह की साजिश इंशाअल्लाह ये कौम कामयाब नहीं होने देगी। तो जो स्पीकर ने आज जो अपनी अथॉरिटी, अपनी जो पावर, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पावर यूज़ करके जो फैसला किया है। अब इसके बाद मैंने अभी से प्रेसिडेंट साहब को वो भेज दिया है, एडवाइस भेज दी है कि असेंबलियां डिसॉल्व करें। एक डेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी में हम डेमोक्रेट्स अवाम के पास जाएं।
All right, so most extraordinary series of developments taking place in Pakistani politics. That was Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, there stating that he has now advised the Pakistani President to dissolve the present assembly and he wants snap elections. Now, whether this will, of course, be accepted by the people of Pakistan, whether this will even go through the scrutiny of law, of course, remains a big question. But I'm told that we are, at this point of time, being joined by Mr. Abdul Samad Yaqub, who is a spokesperson of the PTI, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party. He's joining us live from Islamabad. Mr. Samad Yaqub, this is an extraordinary development that has taken place in Pakistani politics. The Deputy Speaker has rubbished the no-confidence vote, stating that it was inspired by a conspiracy hatched from an external nation and therefore simply had no validity. And now the Prime Minister has called for snap elections. Is this even legal?
Well, it is purely a constitutional. Number of times and at multiple forums, I have already made it very clear that whatever is going to be happened will be held under the constitutional framework. And while before this ruling, we have consulted with all the legal and constitutional experts. And finally, when let me make it clear that the challenge, the ruling of the speaker cannot be challenged at any forum, not even the Supreme Court. So the custodian of the House has the right to overrule this motion of no confidence. Once it is done, the Prime Minister was able to dissolve, to send the summary to President to dissolve the assemblies. Now, finally, if it wasn't dissolved, if the summary was not sent, opposition has an option to send the requisition to the President again, and then all that process need to be repeated. So finally, I think that we have concluded and ended up on the best solution so far. Right. Because there could be the further, in order to avoid the further constitutional crisis, we have chosen the best way so far, I think.
Now, Mr. Yaqub, people who are watching this broadcast, they'll be looking at a few aspects of it. The first question immediately that props up is this motion of no confidence, and the process for it started on the 8th of March. So it's almost over 24 days since this entire process had been going on for the Speaker to now, this morning, state that this vote of no confidence that had been brought about against the Imran Khan government is unconstitutional because it has been inspired by this conspiracy that has been hatched abroad. Why did the government or the Speaker have to wait for 24 plus days to actually finally conclude that this is an unconstitutional vote of confidence motion that's been brought against the government?
When it was tabled and this motion was tabled in the floor of the House, and then the government
that's
came
precisely
up
my
with,
question. Why did the Speaker not dismiss this motion immediately and dub it to be unconstitutional?
It is a discretionary power, and at that time when it was tabled, during those days, the government has not presented any evidence or has not asked the Speaker to to overrule it under the Article 5. So this was done today. So it is a regular standard procedure which was followed.
You say it is a standard procedure that was followed, but what has happened today on the floor of the National Assembly was simply, not by any stretch of imagination, a standard procedure that is played out. A lot of people would say that there is some legal chicanery that the Deputy Speaker has relied upon to dismiss this motion, because no one expected that this would be the reasoning that would be invoked to dismiss the motion that had been brought against the government.
See, this is a debatable issue. I mean, one can may differ with this overruling, but that cannot be challenged. When it is When it is overruled, it cannot be challenged. So according to the constitution, the Prime Minister has already sent the advice, and now President is constitutionally bound to dissolve the assemblies. I mean, if it could be a challenge at any forum, then they can expect the remedy or relief from other form like a Supreme Court. So once it cannot be challenged, it will be followed by the procedure. I mean, by the constitutional procedure.
Absolutely. Now, people of Pakistan are, of course, watching this. People indeed around the world are watching what is happening in Pakistan at this point of time. A lot of things have actually played out over the course of this entire controversy of the no confidence motion that has been brought in. You know, the question that I want to ask you is, what does it do to the image of Imran Khan, who so far had been insisting that he was running a clean administration, but this is virtual, hanging on to power, using some kind of legal chicanery that he has resorted to?
What the viewers has to understand is the Prime Minister has
Pakistan understand with this, because people in Pakistan are watching this very closely, and how they now look at their Prime Minister who's managed to hang on to power by using a certain, it's difficult to in fact describe this, but by using discretionary powers of the Deputy Speaker who was presiding over the session, and it was entirely his discretion.
No, if this move is done in order to prolong his rule, his power, then they might have. They can doubt the intentions. But once it is done, and once the assemblies are dissolved, and it is clearly evident that they are going to. We are going to seek the fresh mandate, and we are going to present our case in the public. So now the public is the judge, public is going to be the judge. And I think we have now moved out of this political turmoil. It is over now. I mean, this political crisis, the whole nation was in panic. I think the public at large will welcome this move.
All right, you say the public at large will welcome this move, but it remains to be seen as to how the Pakistani public, of course, responds to this. Mr. Abdul Samad Yaqoob, thank you very much indeed for joining us in this broadcast on WION and sharing your views. But this appears, many would say, to be the beginning of another long stretch of political turmoil at this point of time as things stand. The vote of no confidence that had been brought against the Imran Khan government, that has been rubbished by the Deputy Speaker who was presiding over the National Assembly session, and the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has now said that he's also advised the President to dissolve the Assembly, and he's calling for snap elections. That's WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.